Princess Valara Catherine grew up hearing stories about humans. Her teachers spoke about them in low, scared voices. They told her that humans came from a terrible planet called Earth, a world where everything tried to kill you. The air was poison. The gravity crushed your bones. Dangerous animals hunted in every corner. And the humans who survived this death world were the most dangerous creatures of all. They said humans ate the flesh of other living things. They waged wars against each other for fun. They had no honor and no mercy. They were monsters in the shape of people. Valara believed every word. So when the Sylvani guards captured a human ship near the border, the whole empire talked about nothing else. The ship had been drifting without power. Most of the crew was dead. But one human had survived. Emperor Catherine ordered the creature brought before his throne. Valara stood beside her father, curious and afraid at the same time. She wanted to see what a real human looked like. She expected something horrible. The throne room was beautiful. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling painted with stars. Hundreds of Sylvani nobles watched in silence as the guards dragged the prisoner through the doors. Valara held her breath. The human was smaller than she expected. He stood about 6 feet tall, which was short compared to the Sylvani. His skin was a strange brown color. His hair was dark and messy, stuck together with dried blood from a cut on his head. He wore torn clothes that might have been a uniform once, but it was his eyes that surprised her most. They were brown, like rich soil, and they were not filled with rage or hunger. They looked tired, sad, human. The guards pushed him down to his knees. He grunted in pain but did not cry out. He looked up at the emperor with those strange 2 eyes and waited. "What is your name, creature?" the emperor asked. His voice echoed through the silent hall. "Cole Bennett," the human said. His voice was rough but clear. "I am a cargo pilot. I was carrying medicine to a human colony when my navigation system broke. I did not mean to enter your space." Whispers ran through the crowd. The creature spoke their language. Badly, yes, but he spoke it. And his words held no threat. The emperor leaned forward on his crystal throne. He was old and wise, with 6 purple eyes that had seen many things. His long fingers tapped against the armrest as he studied the human. "You crossed into Dominion space without permission," the emperor said. "The punishment for this is death." Valara watched the human's face. She waited for fear, for anger, for begging. But Cole Bennett just nodded slowly, like he had expected this. "I understand," he said quietly. "But I ask one thing. My ship carried medicine for children sick with a fever. Please, let the medicine reach them. They will die without it." The throne room went completely silent. Valara felt something strange in her chest. This creature, this monster from a death world, was about to die. And his last request was not for his own life. It was for sick children he would never see again. The emperor said nothing. He waved his hand, and the guards took Cole Bennett away to the prison cells below the palace. That night, Valara could not sleep. She kept thinking about the human's eyes, about his words. Nothing about him matched the stories she had been told. She needed to know more. She waited until the palace was quiet. Then she wrapped herself in a dark cloak and walked down to the prison level. The guards knew her face and let her pass without question. The cells were cold and gray. Most of them stood empty. At the very end, behind a wall of blue energy, sat Cole Bennett. He was looking out a small window at the stars. When he heard her footsteps, he turned and slowly stood up. Then he did something that surprised her. He bowed. "Princess," he said, "I know the sign on your clothes, the royal symbol." Valara stopped a few feet from the energy wall. "You know our ways. I have traded with Sylvani merchants before. Your people make beautiful things. Beautiful music, too. I have recordings on my ship. He paused and gave a small, sad smile. "If your soldiers have not destroyed it." "You are not what I expected," Valar said. "Let me guess." Cole sat back down on the hard bench. "You thought I would be screaming and trying to break through the walls. Maybe foaming at the mouth like a wild animal. Something like that." He shook his head slowly. "I understand why you think that way. Your people only know humans from stories. And yes, some humans are exactly as bad as those stories say. We have done terrible things to each other and to our world. I will not pretend otherwise." He looked directly at her, and Valara felt the weight of his gaze. "But most of us are just people," he continued. "We love our families. We laugh at jokes. We cry when we are sad. We dream of seeing the stars." He gestured toward the window. "Just like you." Valara did not know what to say. Everything she had learned told her this creature was dangerous. But everything she saw told her he was just a tired, lonely man far from home. "Why did you ask about the medicine?" she asked. "You are going to die. Why do you care about children you will never meet?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "Because someone has to," he finally said. "Because if I stop caring about others, then I become the monster you think I am." He turned back to the window. "My grandmother used to tell me something. She said fear makes monsters of everyone. When you are afraid of someone, you stop seeing them as a person. You only see the thing you fear." Valara thought about his words. She thought about all the stories she had heard, about the fear she had felt when the guards brought him in. "Maybe your grandmother was wise," she said softly. "She was." Cole's voice was barely a whisper. "I miss her." Valara stood there for a long time, watching the human watch the stars. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know if she could save him, or if she even should, but she knew. One thing for certain, everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong. She walked back to her chambers as the first light of dawn touched the crystal towers of the palace. Her mind was full of questions. Her heart was full of something she had never felt before. It felt like the beginning of something. Something that would change everything. She did not know how right she was. 3 days passed after Valara's visit to the prison. 3 days of thinking about the human with the sad brown eyes. 3 days of wondering if everything she believed was a lie. On the 4th day, her father made his decision. The human will be sent to the crystal mines of Velith Prime, the Emperor announced to his council. He will work there until he dies. Valara felt her stomach drop. The crystal mines were worse than a quick death. The air down there was poison to Sylvani lungs. Only machines and condemned prisoners worked in those dark tunnels. No one lasted more than a few months. It was a slow, painful end. She wanted to speak. She wanted to argue. But she was only a princess, not the emperor. Her words meant nothing in this room. The next morning, she went to watch them load the prisoners onto the transport ship. She told herself she just wanted to see, to know for sure that he was gone. Cole Bennett walked with his hands bound in front of him. Heavy chains connected his wrists to his ankles, making him shuffle forward in small steps. His face was pale and thin. They had not fed him much, but he held his head up. He did not beg or cry. The transport ship sat on a landing platform high above the city. The morning wind was cold and sharp. Guards stood in lines, watching the prisoners climb the ramp into the dark belly of the ship. Then something happened that changed everything. A young Sylvani guard, barely old enough to carry a weapon, was standing too close to the edge of the ramp. The wind caught him off balance. His foot slipped on the smooth metal. Valar watched in horror as the young guard fell toward the ship's engine. The big thruster was warming up, glowing orange with heat. If he touched it, he would burn to ash in less than a second. She opened her mouth to scream, but Cole Bennett was faster. The human threw himself forward, his chains pulling tight. Somehow, impossibly, he caught the falling guard's wrist with his bound hands. The sudden weight pulled Cole's shoulder out of its socket with a horrible popping sound. He screamed in pain, a raw and terrible sound, but he did not let go. With one arm now useless, Cole used his body weight to drag the young guard away from the engine. They both fell hard onto the metal ramp. The guard was safe. Cole lay curled on his side, his face white with agony, his dislocated shoulder twisted at a wrong angle. No one moved. No one spoke. Valara stared at the human lying on the ramp. He had been walking to his death. He had every reason to let the guard fall. No one would have blamed him. No one would have even noticed in the chaos. But he had saved the young Sylvani anyway, and it had cost him terrible pain. That was the moment Valara made her choice. She walked to her father's chambers that evening and asked to speak with him alone. The Emperor looked tired. The War Council had been meeting all day, discussing the growing threat from the Vexian hegemony. But he made time for his only daughter. "The humans saved one of our guards today," Valara said. "He broke his own body to save a Sylvani life. A guard who was part of the group sending him to his death." The Emperor's 6 eyes studied her carefully. "I heard about this. Father, we are wrong about humans. Or at least, we are wrong about this one." Valara took a deep breath. "I want to save him. Why?" It was a simple question, but Valara struggled to answer it. Because he showed mercy when he had no reason to. Because he thinks of others even when facing death. Because maybe, if we show him kindness, we can learn something important about his people. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. His fingers tapped against his throne in that slow rhythm she knew so well. "There is political value in what you say," he admitted. "A human ally could be useful against the hegemony. Their kind are known as fierce warriors." "Then let me prove it," Valara said. "Let me take responsibility for him. If he causes any problems, I will accept the punishment myself." Her father's eyes widened. "You would risk your own life for this creature?" "I would risk my life for the chance to understand him. Yes." The Emperor studied his daughter for a long time. He saw something in her eyes that he had not seen before. A fire, a purpose. "Very well," he said at last. "The human is yours. He will live in the palace as your servant and advisor on human matters. But if he betrays us, if he tries to escape or contact his people without permission, you will share his fate." Valara bowed low. "Thank you, Father." "Do not thank me yet, daughter. You have taken a great risk. I hope you understand what you have done." She did understand, and she did not regret it. Cole Bennett was brought to the palace the next day. Sylvani doctors fixed his shoulder, marveling at how quickly the human body could heal. They gave him clean clothes and a small room near the servants' quarters. When Valara came to see him, he was sitting on his bed, staring at his hands like he could not believe they were real. "Why?" he asked without looking up. "Why did you save me?" Valara sat down on a chair across from him. "Because you saved that guard. Because you showed me that the stories about humans are not always true. I almost died for a stranger. That was stupid. It was brave." Cole finally looked at her. His brown eyes were wet with tears he was trying not to shed. "I am so far from home. Everyone I knew on that ship is dead. I thought I would die too. And now I do not know what I am supposed to do." Valara reached out and touched his hand. It was warm, much warmer than Sylvani's skin. "Now you live," she said simply. "You live and you help me understand your people. And maybe, together, we can build something better than fear and hatred." Cole stared at her hand on his. Such a simple touch. Such a small gesture. But it meant everything. "I do not know if I deserve this chance," he said. "Then earn it," Valara replied. "Show me who humans really are." Cole took a shaky breath. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Okay," he said. "I will try." Over the following weeks, they began to talk. First about simple things, food, music, the weather on Earth. But gradually, their conversations grew deeper. Cole told her about human history, the wars and wonders, the cruelty and kindness. He did not hide the dark parts. He did not pretend his people were perfect, and Valara found herself sharing things too. Her loneliness as a princess, her fear of the coming war, her dreams of a future where all species could live in peace. They were so different. Human and Sylvani, prisoner and princess. But somehow, in those quiet talks, they found common ground. They found friendship, and neither of them knew it yet, but that friendship would change the fate of the galaxy. 6 months had passed since Cole Bennett came to live in the palace. He was no longer a prisoner. The servants treated him with nervous respect. The nobles whispered about him in the halls. Some called him the princess's pet. Others called him something far worse. Cole did not care what they called him. He had a purpose now. He was Valara's advisor on human matters, and he took the job seriously. Every day, they would meet to discuss politics, trade, and culture. Cole taught Valara about human negotiation tactics. She taught him about Sylvani customs and history. They had become true friends, able to laugh and argue and sit in comfortable silence together. But outside the palace walls, darkness was gathering. The Vexian hegemony had been enemies of the Sylvani dominion for centuries. They were a warrior people, tall and red-skinned, with 4 arms and a hunger for conquest. For years, they had been building their military. Now, their spies were everywhere. The Festival of Moons was the most important celebration in the Sylvani calendar. For 3 nights, the entire Dominion stopped to watch their world's 3 moons align in the sky. It was a time of peace and prayer. A time when weapons were put away and old enemies shared meals together. It was also a time when security was weakest. Valara had invited Cole to watch the moonrise from her private terrace. It was a great honor. No one outside the royal family had ever been allowed there during the festival. The night was warm and clear. The first of the 3 moons was already climbing above the horizon, painting the crystal towers in silver light. Cole stood at the edge of the terrace, looking up at a sky full of unfamiliar stars. "It is beautiful," he said quietly. Valara stood beside him. "On Earth, you have only 1 moon?" "Yes, we call her Luna. She is smaller than any of yours, but she has always been special to us. Poets write about her. Lovers meet under her light." Cole smiled at the memory. "I used to watch her rise over the ocean when I was a boy." "Tell me about the ocean." Cole opened his mouth to answer. Then he stopped. Every muscle in his body went tight. His eyes moved to the shadows at the edge of the terrace. "Get down," he said. His voice was flat and cold. A voice Valara had never heard before. "What is wrong?" Cole did not answer. He grabbed Valara and threw her to the ground, covering her body with his own. A beam of red light cut through the air where her head had been a moment ago. It hit the crystal railing behind them and shattered it into 1,000 pieces. Assassins. Cole rolled off Valara and came up in a crouch. His eyes scanned the darkness. He grabbed a heavy crystal vase from a nearby table and threw it with terrible speed and accuracy. There was a scream. A body fell from the shadows. "Stay here," Cole ordered. Then he was gone, running into the darkness like a hunting animal. Valara pressed herself against the floor, her heart's pounding. She could hear sounds from the garden below, grunts, impacts, the crack of breaking bones. A scream cut short. Then silence. She waited, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Footsteps approached, slow and uneven. Cole stepped back onto the terrace. His face was covered in blood. His shirt was torn. He was limping badly, and one arm hung loose at his side. but he was alive. "It is safe now," he said. His voice was tired. 3 of them, all dead. Valara stood up on shaking legs. "You killed them? With your hands?" "Humans are good at staying alive." Cole sat down heavily against a broken railing. "It is what we do." The palace guards arrived minutes later, led by Valara's personal security chief. They found the bodies of 3 Vexian assassins. 2 had broken necks. The 3rd had been beaten so badly that he was barely recognizable. Cole had done all of this in less than 2 minutes. The investigation took several days. The Vexian hegemony had sent the assassins to kill Princess Valara. As the Emperor's only heir, her death would throw the Dominion into chaos. It was exactly what the hegemony wanted. Cole Bennett had not just saved a life. He had saved an empire. The Emperor called Cole to the throne room. This time, the human did not kneel. He stood tall, his wounds bandaged but his eyes clear. "You could have let my daughter die," the Emperor said. "You could have used the chaos to escape. No one would have blamed you. You owe us nothing." Cole shook his head. "You are wrong. I owe you everything. Valara saw me when everyone else saw a monster. She gave me a chance when no one else would." He paused. "She's my friend. I would die for her without a second thought." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer. "I've lived many years. I have seen many things, but I have never seen anyone fight like you did. 3 trained assassins, and you killed them with your bare hands." He leaned forward. "Is this what all humans can do?" "We are survivors," Cole said simply. "Our world tried to kill us every day for millions of years. It made us strong. It made us stubborn. We do not give up easily. I am beginning to understand that." The Emperor stood from his throne. The entire court held its breath. No one had ever seen the Emperor stand for anyone except visiting heads of state. "Cole Bennett," the Emperor said formally, "from this day forward, you are not a servant or an advisor. You are a citizen of the Dominion with all rights and honors. And you are appointed as my daughter's personal guardian. You will protect her life with yours." Cole dropped to one knee. Not because he was forced to, because he wanted to. "I swear it," he said. "I will not fail you." That night, Valara found Cole sitting alone in the palace garden. His bandages glowed white in the moonlight. He was staring at his hands, the same hands that had killed 3 men just days ago. "Does it bother you?" she asked, sitting beside him. "The killing?" Cole did not answer right away. "Yes," he finally said. "It always does. But I would do it again. I would do anything to keep you safe." Valara felt tears in her eyes. "I do not deserve such loyalty." "You gave me my life back," Cole said. "You gave me a home and a purpose. You looked at a monster and saw a man." He turned to face her, and his brown eyes held more warmth than she had ever seen. "I will spend the rest of my days trying to be worthy of that." They sat together in silence, watching the 3 moons cross the sky. Everything was changing. War was coming. The galaxy would never be the same. But in that moment, 2 friends from different worlds found peace in each other's company, and that was enough. The Treaty of Tessar was signed 3 months after the Great Battle. Representatives from every species that had fought together gathered on a space station built just for this moment. They came as former enemies. They left as allies. The Galactic Compact was born that day, an alliance of dozens of species, committed to protecting each other and building a shared future. The hegemony, broken and humbled, was forced to accept peace terms that would keep them quiet for generations. Cole Bennett watched the signing ceremony from the back of the room. He wore a formal Sylvani uniform now, modified to fit his human body. Around his neck hung a medal given to him by the Emperor himself, the highest honor any non-Sylvani had ever received. But medals meant little to Cole. What mattered was what came next. Valara found him after the ceremony, standing by a window that looked out at the stars. "You should be celebrating," she said. "I was thinking. You are always thinking." She stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "What is on your mind?" Cole was quiet for a moment. "I used to be a cargo pilot. I carried medicine and food to small colonies. I never thought I would help end a war or build an alliance between species." He shook his head slowly. "The universe has a strange sense of humor. Perhaps the universe knew something you did not." "Maybe." Cole turned to face her. "Your father has asked me to be the first human ambassador to the Compact. He wants me to speak for all humans." Valara's eyes widened. "That is a great honor. It is a great responsibility. I'm not sure I am the right person for it. You brought together species that had hated each other for centuries. You found common ground where everyone else saw only division. If anyone can represent humanity, it is you." Cole did not look convinced. "Humans are complicated. We have done terrible things. We are still doing terrible things. How can I speak for all of us when I know our darkest secrets?" Valara took his hands in hers. Her skin was cool against his warmth. "That is exactly why you should do this," she said. "You do not pretend your people are perfect. You are honest about your flaws. That honesty is what makes others trust you." Cole looked at their joined hands. So different. Human fingers, thick and strong. Silvani fingers, long and graceful. And yet they fit together somehow. "I will do it," he said finally. "But I will need help. You will have it, I promise." In the months that followed, everything changed. Cole traveled across compact space, meeting with leaders and ordinary citizens alike. He told them about Earth, about human history, about the good and the bad. He did not hide the wars, the cruelty, the mistakes. But he also showed them the art, the music, the endless human capacity for love and hope. Other humans began to arrive in compact space. Scientists who wanted to study alien worlds. Artists who wanted to learn new forms of expression. Engineers who wanted to share their technology. And yes, some troublemakers too, because humans were never perfect. But slowly, the old fears began to fade. Species that had once seen humans as monsters started to see them as neighbors. Then as friends. The day Emperor Catherine announced his retirement, the entire Dominion held its breath. Everyone knew that Valara would take his place. But no one knew what kind of ruler she would become. Her coronation was the largest event in Silvani history. Representatives from every compact species attended. Ships filled the sky, their lights blinking like new stars. Cole stood in the crowd, watching as the crown was placed on Valara's head. She was no longer the curious princess who had visited him in his prison cell. She was an empress now, responsible for billions of lives. But when her eyes found his in the crowd, she smiled. The same smile she had given him all those years ago, when she first realized that humans were not monsters after all. That night, there was a private ceremony. Just the two of them, on the same terrace where Cole had saved her life. "My father offered me some advice before he retired," Valara said. "He told me to find someone I trusted completely. Someone who would tell me the truth even when it was hard to hear. Wise advice. I already have that person." She turned to face him. "I want you beside me, Cole. Not as my guardian or my ambassador. As my partner." Cole felt his heart stop. "Valara, I know it is unusual. I know some will object. A human consort to the Silvani Empress." She stepped closer. "But we have already broken every rule. We have already changed everything. Why stop now? Are you sure? This will cause problems, political difficulties. Let them come." Her voice was steady. "I have faced war and assassination and the end of everything I knew. I am not afraid of politics." Cole laughed. A real laugh. The kind he had not felt in years. You are the bravest person I have ever met. I learned from a human who threw himself at assassins to save my life. She took his hands. What are you? Say, Cole Bennett, will you help me rule this empire? He looked at her for a long moment. At the woman who had seen a monster and found a man. At the friend who had given him everything when he had nothing. Yes, he said simply. Always yes. The years that followed were not easy. There were challenges and setbacks, enemies who tried to tear them apart, problems that seemed impossible to solve. But they faced everything together. Under their leadership, the compact grew stronger. Trade flourished. Science advanced. Species that had been strangers became family. And every year, on the anniversary of the Battle of Tessara Crossing, the entire compact celebrated Unity Day. A reminder that the bonds between peoples were stronger than the fears that divided them. Cole would often stand at the window of the Imperial Palace on those nights, looking out at the 3 moons of the Sylvani homeworld. Sometimes Valara would join him. Sometimes he would be alone with his thoughts. He would think about the scared cargo pilot who had crashed into this corner of the galaxy, expecting to die. About all the choices that had led him here. About all the people who had believed in him when he did not believe in himself. He had expected to be seen as a monster. Instead, he had found love and purpose and a fias and a vayen, chance to change the fate of millions. Not bad for a human from a death world. The last entry in Cole Bennett's personal journal, written many years later, said this. They told her to fear me. They told her I was a beast from a world of nightmares. But she looked past the stories and saw who I really was. She gave me a chance when no one else would. I came to this galaxy expecting nothing but death. I found a home instead. I found a partner. I found a purpose worth living for. They say humans are survivors. They say we are stubborn and fierce and impossible to break. That is true, but what they do not say, what they do not understand, is that we survive best when we have something to protect, someone to love, a reason to keep fighting. Valara gave me that, and I spent the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her faith in me. I hope I succeeded. I hope, when the universe looks back on my story, it sees not a monster who was tamed, but a man who was given a chance to become something more. That is all any of us can ask for, a chance. And the courage to take it. The end. The war came 6 months after the assassination attempt. It came with fire and screaming, and the deaths of millions. The Vexian hegemony attacked without warning. Their fleet was 3 times larger than anything the Dominion could gather. Their soldiers were bred for battle, trained from birth to kill. They swept through the border systems like a burning wind, leaving nothing but ash behind them. The Sylvani were not warriors. They were artists and explorers, scientists and philosophers. Their military was small and defensive. They had never faced anything like this. In the War Council, admirals argued and generals shouted. Everyone had a different plan. No one could agree on anything. The Emperor sat in silence, watching his empire fall apart around him. Cole Bennett stood in the corner, listening. He was the only human in the room. Some of the commanders looked at him with suspicion. Others ignored him completely, but Valara saw something in his eyes. He was thinking, calculating, planning. Let him speak, she said, cutting through the noise. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to the human. Cole walked to the tactical display. The holographic map showed the Dominion's territory, now dotted with red markers where hegemony forces had struck. You are fighting the wrong kind of war, Cole said. His voice was calm and clear. You are trying to meet their strength with your strength. But you cannot win that fight. They have more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Admiral Vethral, an old warrior with scars on his face, stepped forward. Then what do you suggest, human? That we surrender? No, I suggest you fight like humans. He touched the display, and the map changed. Now it showed supply lines, communication networks, fuel depots. The hegemony is powerful, but they are also arrogant. They expect you to stand and fight in open battle. They do not expect you to run, to hide, to strike from the shadows and disappear before they can respond. That is cowardice, another commander said. There is no honor in such tactics. Cole turned to face him. There is no honor in extinction either. The hegemony will not give you a fair fight. They will burn your worlds and enslave your children. You can either die with honor, or you can live with victory. The choice is yours. The room erupted in argument. But the Emperor raised his hand, and silence fell. Continue, he said to Cole. For the next hour, Cole explained human military history. He talked about small forces defeating large armies through speed and surprise. He described how to attack supply lines, spread false information, and break the enemy's will without ever meeting them in direct battle. Some commanders looked horrified. Others looked thoughtful. A few actually started taking notes. This is not war, Admiral Vethril said when Cole finished. This is something else. This is survival, Cole replied. And humans have been surviving for a very long time. The Emperor made his decision. The Dominion would follow Cole's strategy. The months that followed were brutal. Cole worked with the admirals to plan attacks on hegemony supply ships. He trained special teams in sabotage and infiltration. He studied the enemy commanders and learned their weaknesses. He also led missions himself. Valara begged him not to, but he refused to send others into danger he would not face himself. He was wounded 7 times. Each time, he went back to duty before his injuries had fully healed. The Sylvani doctors said his recovery speed was impossible. Cole just smiled and said humans were stubborn. Slowly, the war began to turn. Hegemony ships found their fuel contaminated. Their commanders received false orders that sent them into ambushes. Their soldiers became afraid to sleep, never knowing when a strike team might appear from the darkness. But the real change came at the Battle of Tessara Crossing. The hegemony had finally cornered the main Dominion fleet. 200 enemy ships against 70 Sylvani vessels. There was no escape. No tricks left to play. This was the end dot, or it should have been. What the hegemony did not know was that Cole had spent the last year sending secret messages to other species. The Korath, the Dramati, the Velinari, all of them were threatened by hegemony expansion. All of them have refused to help the Dominion before, suspicious of each other and focused on their own survival. Cole had spoken to each of them. He had listened to their fears and their grievances. He had found common ground where none seemed to exist. He had made them believe that together they could win. When the hegemony fleet moved to destroy the Dominion ships, they found themselves surrounded. 300 vessels from a dozen different species appeared from hiding. Ships that had never fought on the same side. Ships from races that had been enemies for generations. United by a human who refused to let fear divide them. The Battle of Tessara Crossing lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the hegemony fleet was shattered. Their admiral was captured. Their war machine was broken beyond repair. Cole stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the enemy vessels burn. He was exhausted. His uniform was stained with blood, some his own, some not. He had not slept in 3 days, but they had won. Valara found him there, staring at the stars. She had commanded her own ship during the battle, something princesses were never supposed to do. Her hands were still shaking from the stress. "You did it," she said. "You saved us all." Cole shook his head. "We did it. All of us together. That is the only reason we are still alive." The fleet commanders gathered for a conference that night. Representatives from every species that had fought in the battle. They looked at each other with new eyes. Former enemies. Now allies. Valara stood before them, a princess transformed by war into something more. "Today we proved that the darkness can be beaten," she said. Her voice carried across the room, strong and clear. Not by one empire alone, but by many peoples working together. "Today we are not Sylvani or Korath or human. Today we are one." The cheers shook the walls. Later, when the celebrations had quieted, Cole sat alone in a small observation room. He was looking at Earth's star, a tiny point of light barely visible among billions of others. Valara came in and sat beside him. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I am thinking about home," Cole said. "About all the people who will never know what happened here. About all the humans who still think they are alone in the universe. You miss them. Every day." He turned to look at her. "But I have found a new home too. A new family. And I would not trade that for anything." Valara took his hand. Human and Sylvani. So different. So alike. "The war is over," she said. "What happens now?" Cole smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "Now we build something better. Something that lasts." And that is exactly what they did.